Evening. Okay. Good evening. I would like to call to order the June 1st, 2021 school board meeting. This evening, Vice Chair Pennock has the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. As we celebrated Memorial Day yesterday and the finish of a unbelievably challenging year, I just wanted to share my favorite quote from Teddy Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, it's not the man who points out how strong the man stumbled. Credit belongs to the man who really was in the arena, his face marred with dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs to come short and short again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. It is the man who actually strives to do the deeds, who knows with great enthusiasm and knows the great devotion, who spends himself on a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end of triumph of great achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and cruel souls who know neither victory nor defeat. If you'll please stand and say the pledge.
Thank you, Vice Chair Pennock. Let the record reflect that all 5 school board members, school board attorneys, superintendent, and clerk are in attendance this evening. Ms. Moramis, do you have any groups wishing to be acknowledged? Thank you. Dr. Griffin, any agenda modifications?
I have 2 items, Madam Chair. The first is the electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item. And the second is I need to pull item 3A, focused on student achievement.
Thank you. Board members, roll call order tonight is Member Krause, Vice Chair Pennock, Member Calderon, Member Sanchez, and then myself. Member Krause, do you have any modifications?
No modifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
Sorry, yes, I need to pull, oh my gosh, Jill, what's the addendum item? I need to pull Y for discussion, please.
Thank you. Member Calderon?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you, Member Sanchez, and I have no modifications. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Griffin, presentations?
Yes, we have several on the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I am very pleased to announce to you our Veteran of the Month for Seminole County Public Schools, who happens to be a Lake Mary High School teacher, Mr. Bob Crooks. If you'd come on up and stand here at the front, please. Okay, thank you. Mr. Crooks, stay in place while I read about you, please. Mr. Crooks is a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, go Steelers, and he enlisted in the United States Army in 1989 and went to boot camp at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. After boot camp, Mr. Crooks went to advanced individual training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, where he became a single-channel radio operator, a satellite operator and repairman, and a nuclear, biological, chemical, non-commissioned officer. Subsequently, Specialist Crooks was assigned to the 528th United States Support Activities Group in Çakmaklı, Turkey. From there, Specialist Crooks was assigned to the 212th Field Artillery Headquarters at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Specialist Crooks finished his duty in 1993, serving in Saudi Arabia with the 12th Field Artillery Group as part of Desert Shield, and saw combat in Iraq and Kuwait as part of Desert Storm. Mr. Crooks came to Seminole County Public Schools in 1998 and was hired to teach U.S. history and helped start a JROTC program at Sanford Middle School. He then worked as middle school coordinator with Safe and Drug-Free Schools. In 2003, Mr. Crooks was hired at Lake Mary High School, where he has taught or is currently teaching such subjects as American government, economics, U.S. history, and world history. While at Lake Mary High School, Mr. Crooks has coached both slow pitch and fast pitched softball and actively engages with his students in many activities. Joining Specialist Robert Crooks is his wife, Jenny. Jenny, would you please stand, and his two sons, Jackson and Grayson. Mr. Crooks, we are blessed to have you as an employee of Seminole County Public Schools and a teacher of Ram Nation, and we thank you for your service to our nation and our school district. Once again, Mr. Bob Crooks.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Griffin. Tonight we are honoring the Seminole County students in middle and high schools who have been recognized for their outstanding achievements in science research and have earned top prizes and awards at the State Science and Engineering Fair of Florida and the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. Before I announce the students, I do want to give an extra special thanks to Rachel Novella and Christy Seitz from the Department of Teaching and Learning for leading this initiative. And ladies, please stand up in the back. All right, first we have from Sanford Middle School, Sierra Leinenbrock. Sierra's teacher mentor is Miss Amanda Holden from Sanford Middle School. Her project title is Building Structures Using Genetic Algorithms, Year 2. Sierra built a virtual simulation where she tests the structural strength of different building designs. She's investigated whether genetic algorithms that introduce random changes to building design can produce stronger designs than traditional architecture. Sierra won first place at this year's State Science and Engineering Fair of Florida. She is also nominated to enter the National Middle School Science Fair competition, Broadcom Masters. Congratulations, Sierra. Next we have from Jackson Heights Middle School, Moitri Santra. And I don't believe Moitri is here with us tonight. Moitri's teacher mentor is Miss Melanie Francher. The project title was Innovative Engineering Tools for Controlling Harmful Algal Blooms, Year 2. Moitri created a polymer gel using the natural sugar chitosan as a potential way to treat harmful algal blooms. Her project showed it would be effective and eco-friendly towards animals in the area. Moitri won first place at this year's state fair, received a nomination for the national competition, and was named one of 4 middle school students across the state as a grand award winner. In addition, Moitri entered a national competition at Arizona State University, their Rob and Melanie Walton Sustainability Solutions Science Fair, where she won first place amongst middle school entrants. Congratulations, Moitri. And next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Gaudreau to announce the high school winners.
Dr. Griffin and board members and audience, thank you for allowing us to recognize these students. I am going to do the best I can with these projects. They are way over my head, so we'll see how this goes. Our first recognition goes to Aishika Nog from Oviedo High School. Her teacher mentor is Mr. Will Ferriosi. The project title, Development of a Combinatory Filtration System for Pollution and Virus Abatement. Aisha-coated face mask and nanoparticles to increase how effective they are in filtering respiratory droplets. Using mannequins, vacuum pumps, and simulated breaths from a nebulizer, she showed that the coated masks are better at filtering droplets and pollution, and that the nanoparticle exposure is within safe limits to the wearer. Aisha just competed at the International Science and Engineering Fair, which hosted over 1,900 students. She earned 4th place at International after winning 2nd place at State. In addition, she was named one of 2 grand prize winners for Florida's Ying competition for STEM research projects. Congratulations. Our next winner, Varsha Naga from Winter Springs High School. Teacher mentor, Mr. Chris Adamson. Project title, Prevention of Healthcare-Associated Infections Using Antibacterial Boron Carbontride Nanoparticle Coating on Medical Devices. Whew. I had to breathe after that one. Varsha also used nanoparticle coatings, but she coated medical devices such as catheters and sutures to reduce how well bacteria can stick to them and therefore reduced infections. Her project showed that the nanoparticle coatings are effective and can withstand repeated use and are not harmful to human skin cells. At the International Science and Engineering Fair, Varsha won 2nd place, our highest ranking awardee of the year. Varsha also published her research earlier this school year in the peer-reviewed science journal ECS, Journal of Solid State Science and Technology. Congratulations, Varsha. Next we have, from Oviedo High School, Laboni Santra. Laboni is not here tonight. She's actually visiting her future school, MIT, with her parents. Everybody wave, she is watching. Wave to the cameras. Her mentor is Mr. William Ferriosi. Project title, Minimizing Food Waste Using a Nature-Derived Coating, an innovative step towards addressing global food security. Laboni combined the natural carbohydrate chitosan, spelled out for me, thank you, Laboni, with citric acid to create a polymer gel that can be used to coat produce instead of commercial waxes. Her coating prevented mold growth on the fruits without impacting the fruit's color, hardness, or size. Laboni just won 3rd place at the International Science and Engineering Fair. Earlier this spring at the state competition, she won 1st place and was named one of only 8 Grand Award winners across Florida's high school entrance. Separately, she also won 1st place in the poster division of the Florida Junior Science, Engineering, and Humanities Symposium, followed by placing 1st when she advanced to nationals. Again, everybody wave. She's up at MIT. Congratulations, Laboni. Our next award recipient, Tee-Hee from Oviedo High School. Again, mentor, you know it, Mr. Will Ferriosi. I don't know if she's here tonight. Project title, Characterizing the Electrical and Thermal Performance of a Circular Exhaust Pipe Thermoelectric Generator. Tee-Hee engineered a device that clamps onto a car's exhaust pipe and recycles some of the energy lost as heat. By recapturing some of the energy, the overall fuel efficiency of the car increases when her CTEG device is added. At the International Science and Engineering Fair last month, Tee-Hee was awarded 4th place. Like SCPS's own Tony Stark, she first had to engineer the equipment to make her device, then engineer, test, and refine the device itself. This award was well earned. And our final recipient from Winter Springs High School, Annika Vidya Nathan. There's Annika. Teacher mentor, Mr. Chris Adamson. Project title, deep breath. Dynamic contact angle measurements of superhydrophilic hydrophobicity in dip-coated face masks to minimize exposure to COVID-19 size nanoparticles. And I deserve a round of applause for getting through that. That's pretty amazing. For her project, Annika coated face masks with nanoparticles and characterized the contact angle measurements when water and simulated mucus was dropped onto the mask. The nanoparticle coating made the droplets bead up and roll off more easily instead of being absorbed into the fabric. Annika was just awarded 3rd place at the International Science and Engineering Fair. This comes after she was named 1st place and one of only 8 grand award winners at state. She was also named one of the 2 grand prize winners in Florida's Ying competition and Best in Fair project at the Orlando Science Center's Lockheed Martin Science Challenge. Congratulations, Annika.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Griffin. We are here to celebrate the 2021 Dividends of the Year. So please, let's celebrate and recognize our youth, adult, and senior district dividends of the year. Our 3 district winners will be receiving a Crystal Apple Trophy, gifts from our partners in education, a special gift from our partners Addition Financial, who are in the audience tonight, and also the Jefferson Award. The Jefferson Award is presented to local volunteers who support local agencies by making a commitment to public service. It is actually the highest honor a civilian can receive from the United States in public service. Our senior dividend of the year, Ms. Barbara Meldos from Woodlands Elementary, was not able to be here tonight, so we'll give her a round of applause, but we're going to celebrate her on another day. But at this time, please celebrate with me the 2021 Youth Dividend of the Year from Lake Mary High School. Please welcome Mira Kocher. Dr. Fuller says, I had the privilege of observing Mira growing from an underclassman eager to create positive change into a senior who has taken an impact to a new level. She demonstrates leadership as she participates in Lake Mary High School's Be the Change initiative, where she voiced how school leadership can better address mental health, school safety, and inclusiveness. She serves as a bridge between several students, organizations, and multiple mediums with one common goal: to improve students' global perspectives while giving back to underprivileged communities. She speaks 4 languages and uses her love of Spanish by teaching it to others in a fundraising campaign to help build a school in India. She has taken community service to the depths of the heart of where it counts most, impacting human lives around the world. Celebrating with her today is her parents and her brother, but also in the audience we have Lake Mary administrators, Principal Dr. Vicki Reynolds, Dr. Fuller, Assistant Principal Mrs. Ayla Cruz, and Mrs. Fuller, and Counselor Mrs. Grigley. So congratulations. In addition to being the Youth Dividend of the Year for the district, she is valedictorian and attending Princeton in the fall. I am so proud for you all to meet one of the most amazing parent leaders we have in this district. This is a award coming for a long time for this lady. The 2021 Adult District Dividend of the Year from Castleberry Elementary is Miss Lindsay Feist. Assistant Principal Mary Walters Clark says it best: how do you volunteer during a pandemic and still make everything seem normal? It's not easy, but Castleberry's Lindsay did it, and she made it seem easy. There are many reasons why Lindsay has been selected to represent the school district. She's the Castleberry PTA president. She installed a little free library right outside the campus, stocked with books for families to keep their students reading while also building a sense of community. Lindsay also arranged for students and families to receive milk and cookies at home for them to participate in a virtual literacy night. She also helped organize bags of science materials to be taken home so families can get together to focus on a virtual science night. Lindsay also is the coordinator for the Castleberry's most loved event, the Trunk or Treat. 200 cars participated in what families call the best night of the year. Lindsay also created a virtual question and answer session for incoming kindergarten parents to address any concerns that they may have. This is only a snapshot of how Lindsay supports the Castleberry community. In a school year with many obstacles, Lindsay created an atmosphere of community in a time where many people felt alone. Lindsay always makes a point of everyone to feel special. She is thoughtful in her organization of events during a pandemic and proactive with her support. And she does this all while being a mom of 3 children and working a full-time job. Please celebrate not only Lindsay, but her family, her husbands Troy in the audience, and her children Easton, Parker, and Cora. And also please welcome Principal Miss Lambert and Assistant Principal Miss Mary Scott.
Good afternoon, Dr. Griffin and board members. On April 13th, we had a school bus engine that caught on fire while transporting students. The bus driver, Angel Diaz, and the bus monitor, Myers Scott, was quick to respond in getting the students off the bus and out of danger. It did not take long before the bus was filled with smoke and the front of the engine compartment was fully engulfed in flames. The driver and the monitor team never showed fear, but rather took control, ushering the students to safety while keeping everyone calm and orderly. On April 29th, we experienced a second fire on one of our school buses. Again, the school bus driver, Jonathan Radowitz, took control, evacuated all of the elementary students, and ushered the students to safety. It is very uncommon to have a fire on a school bus, but extremely uncommon to experience 2 in 1 month. I have been employed for the district in over 20 years, and this is the first fire I've ever been involved with. It is very comforting to know that our drivers and monitors apply their many hours of training as well as the ability to stay calm while faced with this type of emergency. For a job well done, we salute each of you. Thank you, Angel, Maya, and Jonathan, for taking care of our wonderful Seminole County students. Angel, Maya, and Jonathan.
Those are glasses, man.
I can't read with them because I have to read them.
So you need contacts or laces?
Well, I need to.
Good evening, guests, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Griffin. My name is Brandon Hanchon. It is my honor to serve as the 10th principal in the 95-year history of Crooms Academy. Tonight, we'd like to recognize the Crooms Business Advisory Council. The Crooms BAC is nationally recognized as an exemplar council by the National Academy Foundation. This dedicated group of individuals represent a diverse group of organizations such as Veritas, Lockheed Martin, United Data Technology, Motorola, and AAA, in addition to the organizations you will hear represented tonight. They provide an array of support and opportunities for our students through junior achievement, job shadowing, senior portfolio interviews, internships, and of course, the Seminole County Tech Fest. Since 2005, the Crooms Business Advisory Council has raised $339,000, built an endowment of $100,000 here with the Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools, and is awarded $180,000 in scholarships, a remarkable legacy in which we can all be proud. When we call your name, please come forward and remain standing with Dr. Griffin and Chair Almond. Representing Quixar, Jean Bruckert. From Siemens Energy, John Mara. From RB Advisory, Kate Crockett. Sargent Associates Wealth Advisors, Larry Sargent. Living Legacies with Levita Hayes. Representing the National Center for Simulation, Lindsay Spalding. From Meehan Handyman Services, Paul Meehan. From Florida Specs Incorporated, R.T. Hillary. And school board member, Dr. Tina Calderon. Dr. Calderon rolled her eyes at me. All right. And from Crooms Academy of IT, please come forward as well, Aaron Millwater. Mary Benton. And of course, the straw that stirs the drink, Kathy Alper.
Dr. Griffin.
Oh, Mary Benton. She's going to be married.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Griffin. I'm Jean Van Smith, Executive Director of the Foundation. Two introductions tonight. First, I'd like to introduce Addition Financial, who's a great partner of both the Foundation and the school district, supporting everything from our credit unions, Teacher and Employee of the Year, and more. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Addition Financial for their debit card program. Addition donates 3 cents for every transaction on their school debit card, and those pennies add up. Addition is here tonight with a check for the Foundation for $18,457.32. I'd like to welcome Kevin Miller, Katie George, and Lynn Dang to come up and be recognized. Thank you for supporting education.
Thank you, Jill.
All right, one more. I would also like to recognize Duke Energy. They're here tonight to present the foundation with a $40,000 grant to support critical STEM opportunities for students. This grant enhances a number of programs, including Grants for Great Ideas, which is a competitive classroom grant program in the areas of STEM, literacy, and the arts, the third physics bus, and the engineering program at Lyman High School, which provides students with the opportunity to learn the engineering design process through hands-on instruction. Here to present the check are Patty D'Alessandro, Government and Community Relations Manager, and Sharon Arroyo, Vice President, Government and Community Relations with Duke Energy.
I wonder if someone picked it up. No. Okay. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up on my laptop.
Dr. Griffin and board members, good evening, and guests. Tonight I have the privilege of introducing the new high school principal at Lyman High School, Mr. Michael Hunter. A little background on Michael. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Michigan and a master's degree in educational leadership from the American College of Education. He's worked in Seminole County for the past 12 years, both as a math teacher at Hagerty High School and administrator both at Crooms Academy and Winter Springs High School. Michael and his family live in Lake Mary, and speaking of his family, he is joined tonight by his wife, Julie, his daughter, Avery, his son, Miles, and I also see out there a lot of the high school principals that have joined us tonight and the Lyman High School leadership team. So congratulations to Mr. Michael Hunter.
Board members and superintendent, I'd like to introduce the latest, our latest elementary assistant principal, Mrs. Lisa Marquez. Come on up, Mrs. Marquez. Mrs. Marquez is a native of Florida. She spent most of her educational career here in Seminole County. She has taught primarily dual language at both the intermediate levels and the elementary school level. She decided after many years in the classroom that she wanted to make a difference on a larger scale and began to pursue her positions in administration. She's thrilled to be a part of Lawton Elementary School, and here with her tonight is her principal, Dr. Durius. Family members in attendance with Mrs. Marquez tonight is Carlos Marquez. Would you please stand? Gabrielle Marquez, her daughter, and Charles and Gloria Mandisi, her parents. Please stand. Come on up. You're welcome to come up and take a photo.
Good evening, Dr. Griffin and board members. I'd like to welcome Jordan Smith. Jordan is our new facilities planner within the facility planning department. Jordan graduated from Miami University of Ohio with a BA in urban and regional planning and from Rutgers University with a master's in city and regional planning. Jordan has worked in both the private and public sector over the past 22 years with an extensive background in the planning profession and interlocal agreements. Jordan is a member of the American Planning Association, as well as the Florida chapter, and a certified planner through the American Institute of Certified Planners. His family joined us today. His wife, Jamie Smith, son Miles, who is a 7th grader going into 8th grade in Millennium, son Mason, who is a 4th grade going into 5th grade at Crystal Lake, and daughter Madeline, who is 4.5 and will join Seminole County Schools in the 22-23 school year. Welcome to the team, Jordan. I'd like to welcome Rachel Bouffard. She is our newest project manager with facilities planning. Rachel joins our team with 18 years of experience building and renovating schools in Central Florida. She holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Central Florida. She is both a Florida licensed professional engineer and a building contractor. She's a Central Florida native and has worked in the past for 2 private contractors that have done extensive work with the district. Welcome, Rachel.
I'll wait till they close the door. Okay, board members, do you have any items for discussion at this point in time? Member Krause?
No items.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pinnock?
Items that we pulled for the agenda.
Pardon me?
Is this the items that we pulled from the agenda? Or is that for later? Okay, or do you want that later?
No, you can do that.
Okay, so, board members, I requested us to pull the internal auditing services amendment, just to give you a heads up that the audit committee met last couple weeks with RSM to start the process of doing a risk assessment, an internal risk assessment. And part of that assessment involves interviewing each of the board members. So I wanted you to have a heads up so that you had time to maybe review your notes or be prepared for that meeting. They're going to ask for 30 minutes. I suspect it could probably take an hour. In addition to not only meeting us, they're going to be meeting with staff, most of the key staff that are meeting by the end of, they're going to try to get this done by the end of June. So Holly will be working with Jill to get time on your calendar to get those meetings scheduled. That includes you, Dr. Griffin, Mike Gaudreau, all the key leadership. So just wanted to make sure that you guys were prepared for that meeting and not just going into it off the cuff. So we are required to have an internal audit or internal audit services that do regular internal audits. And the initial kickoff that they will do, and part of the requirements is that we have a risk assessment. So they're going to do the risk assessment and then come back and create feedback for the audit committee to give them direction on which audits they feel are necessary to expedite and do quicker than normal based on everybody's input. And then the final recommendation that they gave us was the audit committee is going to start meeting on a quarterly basis. One of those quarterly meetings is going to be a joint meeting between all of the school board members and the audit committee so that they can give you guys feedback on what is happening, all the audits and the audit results that are going on in the district. So since that's one of my committee's agenda item, I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Thank you. Member Calderon.
You said for us to prepare for the meeting. Are they going to give us questions beforehand for us to prepare, or how would you suggest we prepare?
It's basically, for me, I sometimes don't think off the cuff when I'm asked with such a big monumental task. So red flags, any areas of concern, they're just going to talk to you, walk you through just a standard questionnaire of, as a board member, do you have fraud concerns? Do you have concerns of inappropriate internal controls? Do you have any, segregation? General business kind of concerns. So it's better to be heads up than think. And then afterwards, you remember. So,
thank you.
Member Sanchez.
Will that also have us discussing things about possibly our charter schools and things like that too, since they're umbrella underneath us? For example, like UCP in Orlando is being investigated, and I know that in Orlando, and I don't know how that works for our charter schools as well, to making sure that that they're doing what they need to be doing, and that we are meeting their ESE needs of their students and all the different things. Is that something that would come out from that too?
They are not tasked with auditing the charter schools, but if you have a concern, I would recommend you bring it up in the meeting, but I think that you need to speak to that concern as well. But their scope is not charter schools, but maybe to the extent that they maybe audit our contract with them to make sure they're in compliance or we're in compliance.
Perfect. Thank you.
Member Calderon, do you have anything? Any comments? Thank you. Member Sanchez, do you have anything you want to discuss?
Just basically that I wasn't expecting to speak so fast, but I kind of wanted to know our restructuring of journeys, and I have not had any updates on that. And is there any way we can get any information on how we're restructuring journeys?
Dr. Walsh?
Good evening, board members. Right now, we're doing some preliminary work and determining whether or not the students being served over at Journeys, as we have it right now, is really meeting the needs of these students, that maybe we should combine some efforts and look at wraparound services for the students. So at this time, we're exploring some different options. One being a relocation in an area that we're serving our students at Eugene Gregory. That is a possibility on the other side to combine some of those resources. Other things that we're talking about right now is taking a look at our student code of conduct and looking at it as, are we doing what we need to do for our students? Are we going ahead and doing some intervention services for the kids? And when we go ahead and send them to an alternative placement, these students are coming back to our zone school. We want to bring them back stronger than ever. So the focus really is on getting the students that really need to be there, working through high school and middle school folks to kind of come up with some strategies as a level system and seeing if a timeline can be addressed. Maybe a 45-day placement, maybe a 90-day placement, as opposed to a full semester or a full year. Again, we're still in exploration because we need to make sure that those students can come back seamlessly if we recommend a 45-day placement. That's why we have a task force looking at that right now, getting some feedback from teachers, from principals and assistant principals. Once we get that feedback back, we'll be talking to you about combining those resources, getting mental health services, social work services, the wraparound service that we really want to provide these students, because we really don't want a pathway to prison. We want these students coming back stronger than ever.
Thank you. Also, while you're up here, are you, I know that I had heard that some students are not going back to their zone schools. They had usually on the contract, it states that if they end up at Journeys, they have to go back to their zone school, not a school of choice that they had. But I'm seeing that some are going back to their school of choice. Is that something that we are seeing happening still?
I would have to research that because I don't really know what is taking place. It would just be a guess at this point. Okay. I know we have a student code of conduct policy in place that if a student is a visitor or a guest at the school because they went through SAPA and are provided that opportunity through school choice and they violate the student code of conduct, typically they would go back to their zoned school. Correct. Many times the principal might intervene and say, student just messed up this semester, let's give them a chance to come on back and not derail their whole path. It just all depends on the student, but I can research that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Earlier today, I asked Dr. Wyson if he could provide some clarity. We often hear from people who want us to include something in what we teach our students or to not teach our students certain things. And I asked Dr. Wyson to kind of run through that process. How do you determine what we're going to teach the kids?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Almond.
Thank you.
Board members and Dr. Griffin, all of our instruction is based on really two state statutes. The first establishes the state standards. That's the core content of the curricula that's to be taught in the state and includes the core content knowledge and the skills that K through 12 public school students are expected to acquire. And then the second statute covers or identifies several K through 12 instructional topics that our public schools are specifically required to include, and then as a district we have to report on how we covered those topics. And so all of our district curriculum is aligned to either those approved standards at the legislative level or at the state board level, or those state established required instructional topics. So if it's not in those two areas, it's not part of the district curriculum.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, board members? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Vice Chair Pinnock, please read the public input statement.
Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcomed and encouraged. The public comment opportunity is not, however, an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support opposed candidates for public office, or to engage in commercial speech attempting to sell a service or product to the board or the public. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against school system employees or board members. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comment segment of this meeting may not be used for any other purposes, including presentation of political and/or campaign issues, matters involving disciplinary action, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending claims, claimants, or litigation against the district or district personnel. Participants are required to engage in a meaningful but civil communications. The presiding officer of the board and/or parliamentarian may order the removal of a person for interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of this meeting will result in removal. All statements shall be directed at the presiding officer. No person may address or question boards individually. Each statement by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. A designated group representative will have a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to another person. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Johnson, for those who may be here or watching for the first time, would you remind us why we could not immediately lift our mask policy?
Yes, ma'am. So the original mask policy started off as an emergency rule, with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was subsequently adopted as a formal policy. We are required to adopt policies pursuant to the Administrative Procedures Act, Chapter 120, which was done. Conversely, in order to repeal or amend a policy, we also have to follow the Administrative Procedures Act, which requires a series of notices to go out. For repeal, you only have to have one notice. It's a minimum of 28 days. It's noticed in the paper. That process was approved by the board 2 meetings ago, I think. And taking out the 28 days notice, which I think is already run, right, Ms. Marimas, puts it out to, I believe it's about mid-June, and the next meeting following is June 22nd. So we have to follow the rule to repeal just as we had to follow the rule to adopt the policy.
Thank you. Speakers, please come up to the podium and introduce yourself when you go to read your comments. Jessica Tillman, Leslie Kirschenbaum, Shiloh Charles, Kenneth Bentley, and J.P. Pinheiro.
Board, my name is Jessica Tillman. The state of emergency has been over for 28 days. There should have never been a reopening task force. Continuing COVID emergency protocols after the state of emergency has ended is insane. All emergency protocols should be dropped and not implemented next year. The letter from the Department of Education was mentioned to make masks optional, but left out the fact that face masks had no impact on the spread of the virus. The governor has said many times children should not have been masked ever. Why ignore his roundtables and experts? I see Mr. Smith got a seat on the task force along with many principals and staff. No parents or students were invited for input. How's that for representation? Many districts have dropped their COVID measures. Districts and schools in Seminole County that never had mandates ended their year very few people masked, staff and students alike. They had prom and field trips. Have you contacted any of these districts for comparison? No response to no difference between masked versus unmasked districts. Why are you ignoring this data? Make policies that give equal rights to vaccinated and unvaccinated. This is a slippery slope you're on right now. There was a lot of talk about cases, but failed to mention deaths in school. Why? Because there were 0 directly linked to the schools. Are you going to start reporting on illnesses like the flu, colds, suicide? Start collecting data on the mental illness caused by your continued push for this propaganda on our children. Where are your reports on vaccine injuries caused by this shot? There have been 4,000 deaths caused by the vaccine. Your precious vaccine does not stop anyone from getting COVID or spreading it. So what does it matter the percentage that chose to get it? It's a personal choice for families to make privately. Even considering asking vaccination status is unconstitutional. Again, this gene therapy is emergency use authorization only, not fully approved. It has never been tested in children under the age of 18 and continues their trials through 2023. So we truly do not know the ramifications of this shot. Quarantine, isolation, requiring negative PCR tests for symptomatic students with no discussion that the PCR test regulations were altered in January. You don't want to slow our progression? Then follow the lead of our governor, the commissioner of the Florida Department of Education, many other states, other districts and schools without COVID policies, and drop all mandates and COVID policies. The CDC and Health Department are not requirements. They do not have to be followed, as many other districts and schools have chosen to make policies that make sense for their schools and districts. Continuing fear-mongering our children, segregating vaccinated versus unvaccinated, only divides this community more. Put faith in the families of Seminole County to make their own healthcare choices. Other districts and schools had mostly normal years and will have a truly normal year next year. And here we are in Seminole County living in never-ending COVID mandates and protocols. Self-responsibility flexibility over mandates. Allow parents to parent their children. It was stated this morning that parents did a great job keeping kids home when sick. It's pretty simple, really. Let parents decide if they want to mask their children. Let parents decide if they want to put their children through an experimental shot trial. Stop pushing your propaganda and your COVID nonsense on our healthy children.
Please
COVID
wrap
is
up.
over. In the words of Elsa, let it go. Let it go.
Leslie?
Hello, guys. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for your time. Here I am, showing up to this meeting, showing you how much mass choice concerns me and many of us who can't be here today. I have an upcoming 4-year-old that was accepted into Sable Point Elementary, but because of the uncertainty of whether she's going to be in a mask in public school, I chose to keep her in a private school because they aren't masking their children. I also have an autistic 2.5-year-old who will be turning 3 in December and doing early steps and is eligible to start the program in the public school environment of my choice. So basically, as an autistic 3-year-old, in order to get the care he needs for his disability here in Seminole County, he possibly will be wearing a mask. That's not going to happen. Thanks to HB 7045, you guys don't hold that power on me anymore. I do have choice, and I will be using it wisely. Ask yourselves how many parents like me are choosing this route, which means continued drop of revenue for the district. I come from public schooling. I think the teachers really do care about our children, but the irrational fears some continue to have over a virus we know now how to live with, it's getting old. It's exhausting that we keep holding our children hostage over politics and power trips some of you have. I have a few pictures here that I would like to show, if I will, regarding the hypocrisy that seems to exist, basically still here, rules for thee, but not for me. We have Griffin here, not socially distancing and not wearing masks, and that's because he's following the UCF's updated policies with mass choice. He chose not to wear it. So, you know, these are just things that we continue to see as parents, the hypocrisy that keeps going on here, that because there's mass choice in other places like Orange County, UCF, he gets to see graduations. But, you know, these kids here in preschool, Oviedo, they basically all had to wear masks. All of them, all their children had to wear masks because of the policies that we still have here. You have a virtual graduation here. Basically, nobody can even attend to see their children graduate, but Mr. Walt Griffin got that privilege to be seeing them, mass choice, you know. Excuse me. Then we had, who did we have here? Then there's people like Mr. Dan Smith. Dan Smith, which is the president of the Seminole Education Association. Here we have him, basically just talking, this is him in the school board meeting talking about us because he decided to make a comment and post it on social media about parents. This was his post. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. We're still in a pandemic.
Please wrap up.
Sorry?
Please wrap up. Your time is up.
Okay. I just want to tell you guys, please give it mass choice. It's enough. We don't want to keep coming. I have 4 kids as well. Everyone has kids. We don't want to keep coming here, but we will. Thank you. Mass choice.
Shiloh? You're not going to speak? Yes? This is the order. This is the order. No. Your time to speak. No, we want to keep them in, we take them in the order that they come in. Okay, if you want to come up and do your comments, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll ask you to pass your turn. Thank you.
My name is Shiloh Charles. I have 3 children here. I actually moved to this county from Volusia because I have heard so many good things about you guys, and I moved my family of 5 here. Some things that have been brought to my attention since I moved here are very alarming and concerning. Let you guys figure it out and have faith. I love school. I love my kids being in school. I love the teachers. I am with you guys. I support you. My son's going to be 14. He's going to high school, and then I have a 5th grader, 3rd grader. I have volunteered every day of my life for 14 years in schools. The masks need to be optional. The children want it. They ask for it. Okay? They cry. They have panic attacks. It bothers them. They're having like dental issues, anxiety, not being able to sleep or perform well in school. And it's a political thing that you're pushing on us, and we're tired of it. They harm our kids. As far as the vaccine, it is experimental. It is only FDA approved under emergency use, and it is not studied in children. They are silencing doctors and scientists that are saying it maybe harms the uterine lining of women. Okay, so if that happens, we're going to raise a generation of infertile women. That's not okay. We have to pay attention to these things. All sides. Your side, someone else's side. I don't care what it is, but we can't silence hundreds of doctors and scientists and then just listen to a high schooler's science project, even if they did great. That's not science, all right? As far as the vaccine, if I choose to not vaccinate my children, do I pull them out of school? Are you guys going to segregate them and put them in a different classroom? Put a scarlet letter on them? Like, I've heard of this somewhere. Certain papers. Vaccine is safe, then why are we being bribed with French fries, lottery tickets, and gift cards? That doesn't make me have faith in it. The death rate for the vaccine is 3.7% over 4,000 deaths on VAERS, okay? The death rate for COVID for our youth is 0.26%. Immediately after our governor said we needed to repeal COVID mandates, 48 out of the 67 counties in Florida dropped them like this. It wasn't this process. The Education Commissioner of Florida said, get rid of it. Get rid of the mask mandate. So I understand what you're saying about we had to put in the paper, it had to be there for 28 days, but that was a special mandate under like this situation with COVID that you guys implemented, right? And you could also take that away and not have to follow that policy.
Please wrap up your comments.
All right? So I implore you guys to really look at the science, and if you have, then show it to us parents, because we've asked you repeatedly. Show us what science. The CDC and the FDA recommendations, it's not science, and that's not what we want, all right? Mask choice.
Bentley. Bentley. Mr. Bentley.
Once again, good evening. And you can guess by now why I'm here. But the thing about it, I got a different outfit on, so same thing, but a different outfit. Also, I want to say this, and the people in this room tonight, I'm not talking about you, because you came up here and you have a choice to be heard. Last school board meeting, Dr. Griffin, Ms. Calderon, Ms. Pennant, Ms. Sanchez, is it Ms. Krause? I've never really met you, but you seem like a real nice person. And Dr. Calderon, I want to apologize for what you all had to endure the last meeting. I'm going to be honest with you. You have choice, but I thought we were in Washington, D.C. All we had to do was change the date to January 6th. This is a whole different format tonight. These people have come up intelligently, and they've voiced their opinion, whether you agree with it or not. It's intelligence in the room. The last meeting was a trip. It was a trip, and you all didn't deserve that. I've disagreed with everybody behind that counter except these 2 last people, but I would never talk to you the way they talk to you. So I just want to let you know, I apologize. Because you didn't deserve that. You really didn't. This is Sanford. We're better than that. And Dr. Wyson, me and you are friends too. You stood up and you talked about the 2 academics that they have to teach in Florida. So I don't know if that's about my request for Black History, mandatory for middle and high school, but if it is, we just need to talk, Dr. Wyson, we're gonna still be friends. I also wanna let you know, Dr. Griffin, enjoy your retirement. Mike Gaudreau, enjoy your retirement. Mr. Carnes, enjoy your retirement. One other thing, Ingrid Burton Nathan. It's not just the fact she integrated the school system in 1964. She also did over 30 years as an educator in this same system. Ingrid Burton Nathan, Black History, mandatory in middle and high schools. If for some kind of reason that's prohibited, I know Mr. Wyson would talk to me. And board members, have a great vacation because you deserve it. You deserve it, and once again, I'm apologizing for the behavior of other people because you just didn't deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
JP Pineda from Sanford.
Thank you.
Good evening. If you're referring to the one meeting that got kind of rowdy in here, I think that's partly due to that gentleman with white hair in the front and his social media comments that kind of sparked a little bit of that outrage. But I'll move on. As was mentioned earlier, I mean, I wasn't able to attend to this morning's meeting, but I was kind of reviewing very briefly the PowerPoint slideshow that was part of that meeting and some of the graphs there. And on slide 7, I just wanted to point out there's a mislabel. The student and staff color code of your graph is wrong, so just FYI on that one. And like it was mentioned earlier, have you guys looked at the other counties in the state that had masks as optional throughout the whole year? Because if you did, as has DeSantis and his health roundtable, as have I, the COVID cases for elementary schools in those counties that had masks as optionals for the whole year and COVID cases in Seminole County, there was no difference. So universal mask policy had no, affection in the transmission of the virus within our school system. There's no data there. There's no science to say, hey, we need to mask our people within our schools to limit transmission, because there's no difference between those schools that didn't have mandatory masks versus the one that did. So please, I urge you to look at that. Ask your colleagues in the other school boards to share that data with you. They are publicly available. So again, just here to voice my pleading with you. Please vote for rescinding that mandate on June 22nd, and let's get rid of masks as a mandatory policy. Make it optional. Let parents make the choices for their children for the next school year, please. And I also wanted to just to touch base. The 2 bus fires was very, eye-opening to see that. And the gentleman mentioned, 1 is rare enough, 2 is even more. I would just ask, was there an investigation and maybe a root cause analysis of what might have caused those 2 school bus fires? 1 might be a fluke, but 2 pattern there. So that's just something to look at. Glad to hear that everybody was safe during those 2 events, and for those folks that helped the kids get out safely. Thank you very much. Please, masks optional.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, you have comments?
Madam Chair, I have 4 comments that were submitted for the meeting this evening. The first comment comes from Bethany Bax of Oviedo. Dear Madam Chairwoman Allman, Vice Chairman Pennick, members Calderon, Kraus, and Sanchez, Dr. Griffin, and members of the SCPS Reopening Task Force. We, the undersigned, are writing to support current and continued SCPS policies regarding COVID-19 safety protocols throughout the summer and into the 21-22 school year. We implore the Reopening Task Force and SCPS executive leadership to continue following scientific guidance and community health indicators in their decision-making and craft policy and practices that benefit the whole of the school community. Approximately half the SCPS student body population is currently ineligible for the vaccine. Thus, it is critical that SCPS continue to follow the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for masking, distancing, and cleaning. We ask the task force to consider community health indicators, including but not limited to transmission rates, vaccination rates, ICU capacity, and positive test rates of Seminole and surrounding counties. Current data estimate that Seminole and surrounding counties fall within medium to high risk levels and high to very high vulnerability levels for COVID-19 transmission and impact. For example, Seminole is at 97% ICU capacity and has had trending positive test rates near or above 5%. Florida has the 11th highest positive rate in the U.S. and ranks 29th, 37.75% in full vaccination rates across the country. Seminole ranks 15th, 40.10% full vaccination rate across all Florida counties. Florida and our county have much ground to cover to meet national level goals for vaccination and reduced rates for positive cases. We are asking the task force proceed with caution in their decision-making, especially as it pertains to children under 12 years of age and their family members, the faculty and staff of elementary and middle schools. If safety measures are removed too early, the virus will cause continued and new issues and lead to serious interruptions in academic progress and staffing across schools. Now that Seminole Connect is no longer in place, there is little ability to quickly adapt to and from quarantine restrictions or allows asymptomatic students and staff to fully participate in school in a virtual environment for the short period of time. Over the past several months, we have heard continued fallacies presented to the school board about virus, masks, vaccines, and what have occurred over the past year in our schools. That is, students forced to wear dirty masks, students forced to wear masks in outdoor activities. These narratives are dangerous and only further support the continuance of safety measures in schools until all have equitable access to the vaccine. We understand that some will not choose to obtain a vaccine. However, until the vaccine is available and accessible to all age groups for an adequate period of time, the best way to protect the health and ongoing and consistent education for our children is to keep current safety guidelines for the foreseeable future and allow CDC guidelines for safe and phased transition within our schools. This includes masks, especially for our elementary and middle school children. Health equity needs to be at the forefront of our discussion on COVID-19 safety planning and prevention, especially in our county. Systematic health and social disparities have existed in the county since its inception and put persons of color and ethnic minorities at a severe disadvantage. Over the past 14 months, we have seen these inequities exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, as it is disproportionately impacted Asian American Indians, Alaska Native, Black, and Hispanic adults and children populations. Almost half of SCPS students are Hispanic, Black, or multiracial. Research over the past years have shown these students are at a higher risk for illness and negative outcomes due to COVID-19, and these communities have less access to the vaccine. In addition, racial and ethnic minorities have experienced and continue to experience discrimination and trauma within the healthcare system, leading to mistrust of medical professionals and guidance. Time is needed to enhance the uptake of the COVID-19 vaccine in these communities through ongoing community-based efforts. Thus, we need to continue to slow the steady rollout of preventative measures until our community is continually low risk across all COVID-19 risk indicators. We thank the school district on its success for prioritizing the health and safety of its students and staff by following scientific guidance and implementing a layered prevention approach that includes mask and physical distancing. We know that school districts went above and beyond in ensuring that all students had clean masks throughout the day, downtime without masks, and support students and parents' socio-emotional development during this turbulent time. We ask that such efforts will continue moving forward. The next comment comes from Kristen Parrell from Longwood. As a 45-plus year resident of the state of Florida, a graduate of Sable Point Elementary, Rock Lake Middle, and Lake Brantley High School, as well as a mother of 4 sons who have gone through the same Seminole County school system, I am personally vested in seeing Seminole County schools do the right thing when it comes to their mental health and well-being. As such, I am respectfully requesting you to vote to make mask optional next year. There is no scientific evidence for a mask mandate, and children were never at high risk for contracting or spreading COVID-19. Masks have become a sign of obedience and virtue signaling. They strip children of their identity, isolate them from their teachers and classmates, and teach them the first and foremost to be afraid. Is this what we want to teach the youth of Seminole County? From friends and Seminole County school employees, I am beginning to hear very disturbing stories of the mental anguish and the mask mandate and campaign of fear has cultivated in our children. This has to stop. Please unmask our children. Sincerely, Christine Parnell. The next comment comes from Tanya Georgiev from Longwood, and she writes, Dear school board members, at the last school board meeting, Ms. Sanchez specifically stated that kids should not be taking tests en masse. However, principals are following the written procedures and rules set forth by SCPS, and they would not direct the kids to take off their masks during the FSA. I specifically emailed our principal at Sable Point and included Ms. Sanchez in order to clear this up. However, a few emails that were specifically asking Ms. Sanchez to clarify, I never got an answer. Actions speak louder than words, or better said, inactions speak louder than words. Ms. Sanchez said that one thing at the board meeting, but then when given a specific situation, she declined to address. My question is why? Why are we giving information that is misleading and inaccurate? We don't need empty words and promises. We need action and willingness to do what is right by our children. Politics has no place in our schools. So with this in mind, how can we believe that this board will vote to rescind the mask mandate on June 22nd? Is that also one of the empty promises that were made to keep parents quiet, calm and quiet? We will not be silenced We will not be silenced no more. We have been quiet long enough. People have been begging all of you for one thing, choice. We choose you to be on this board, and we should be able to choose what is best for our children. Enjoy your summer, but don't forget that while you are enjoying your mask-free time, kids in camps are still forced to abide by this ridiculous mandate. Thank you. The last comment comes from Allison Prida of Longwood. Thank you for listening to your community and discussing the removal of Seminole County mask mandate. I also ask that you remove the social distancing guidelines. It is time to return our schools to a fully normal experience after your vote on the 22nd. Let the children play together, have group activities, before and after school clubs, performances, field trips, and other vital school experiences. I love our elementary school, but I have to make a tough decision this summer. If you decide on June 22nd to remove the mask mandate but keep social distancing guidelines, if masks are optional but school still feels like a jail with no visitors or parents allowed past the front desk, and if school is not fully normal again, we cannot go through another year like this. There are private schools in Seminole County that are operating normally and have all school year. Staff and children at the private schools did not have mass spreading of the virus and have not had any problems. They could not handle this entire year. Talk to those principals and benchmark them. If attending school normally this year was such a problem, we would have heard about it from the news. I can guarantee you that. If school is not back to normal in the fall, I will have to remove my child from our beloved public elementary school and enroll him in private school where life is lived normally. My bright, outgoing, creative child has been sleeping in my room every night since the pandemic started, and his life changed at school. He doesn't seem different during the day, but if you look closely, you can tell that they are affected psychologically more than we realize. This has to end. Children have statistically zero chance of severe harm from this virus. What are we doing to our children, and to what end? Many school boards within Florida and other states have removed the mask mandate and promised normal school experiences this fall. Spring graduations, award ceremonies, performances, and other normal activities have all occurred this past month without increasing the amount of COVID cases, hospitalizations from those events. Children are not the spreaders, and by now, all teachers and school staff have had the option to get vaccinated if they feel that will help them feel safer. There is Florida virtual school for students and teachers that are not able to go back to normal life due to medical reasons or personal preference. Cases, hospitalizations, and death in Seminole County, Florida, and the U.S. are declining rapidly. Entire states such as Texas, Iowa, and South Carolina have passed laws that will not allow schools to require masks in the fall. Many other states agree we are at the end of this pandemic and have lifted or are lifting mask mandates while continuing to see decreases in cases, hospitalizations, and death. We are ready. Let life go on. Do not let our young children, the least affected by this virus, be the last in line. That concludes public comment.
Order, please. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for the consent agenda?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. My recommendation is that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Board members, would you like a 5-minute break before we? Okay. We'll be back in 5 minutes. If you'll take your seats, please, we're going to reconvene the meeting. Thank you. So under unfinished business, selection of Executive Director of Legal Services, School Board Attorney. For the benefit of the public, we selected Mr. Palmerini as the next Executive Director of Legal Services. Mr. Carnes and Mr. Russi notified Mr. Palmerini of the board selection. Mr. Palmerini requested a copy of Ms. Beeman's last contract, which was provided by Mr. Carnes. Mr. Palmerini called back to say that he was offered a promotion and that this was in the best interest of his family, so he declined our offer. Now we will work through the process of making comments on our top 1 or 2 candidates, and then I will open the floor for nominations. If one candidate gets the majority of the votes, then said candidate will be selected. If no candidate gets the majority of the votes, we can re-advertise the position, and note that Mr. Johnson will continue to advise us also for the coming year. So board members, if we'll go in roll call order, and if you want to talk about your top candidate or top 2 candidates, please. Member Kraus, you're first.
Could I pass my turn to the, no? Okay.
Thank you.
My top choice would be Jody, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce her name. She is a current sitting judge. We discussed her qualifications thoroughly, I think, in our first meeting. She is calm, cool, collected, level-headed, an advocate for children, familiar with 504s, IEPs, employment negotiation issues, and that's my top. I'm sorry, what, can you tell me her full last name? Jody Livingstone or Stun? Stone, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
I really struggled with this over the last, since we got the news, and while I think the other candidates have fine attorneys, they come with great qualifications, I have a big concern that none of them have school board attorney experience, and I feel like we would, I just feel like I want to open the discussion to the opportunity for going back out and re-advertising, because I am concerned with, we need Sarita, Ms. Beeman, to stay focused as the superintendent and not have to build history and experience and training over here. And I'm not 100%.
Thank you. Member Calderon.
Sorry. I would entertain if the board wants to go out. My concern with that is numerous. Are we going to get any school board experienced attorneys? When I was making reference calls for some of our prior candidates who were currently seated school board candidates, the majority on their team were on their team without any school board experience. So I don't know the depth and the breadth of Florida school board attorneys that are out there. We advertised heavily, I know, through their organization. And the closer that we get to school, I think it's going to be harder for families to leave communities to come. That would be my only thought. But as far as the candidates that we have currently, because Madam Chair, that's what you asked me to talk about, of those, I have top 2 candidates, but I truly have a top 1 candidate, and I'd love to have the opportunity to share why. So my top 2 candidates would be Stephanie Stewart and Carleen Cole-Palmer. Carleen Cole-Palmer is my number 1 choice, and the information that I garnered on her from talking to references in both of the organizations where she has worked, both with Embrace Families, was extraordinary. shared comments such as, she's amazing, she's strong with people, she understands the law, she works 24/7, she's immediate in her responses, she has a passion for children. I think it's great that she has experience here in Seminole County with some of our joint families, right? But she passionately works with all types of families and all types of children. I also talked to a judge who knew her during her time when she was regional director for Children's Legal Services in the entire Central Florida region, and said that she was so respected amongst the state. As you can see, when if you go back to her resume to look, she rose through the ranks very quickly. But even statewide, they called her in to come into a larger district than we are to try to help them to fix it. She has a proven track record of hiring excellent staff. She is a colleague and very collegiate, but when it comes to the law, can be a pit bull and very assertive, very quick on her feet, fast learner, and she does understand employment law, which in my initial interview did not come out. I perhaps didn't drill down enough, but she was very strong in that area, which is why she was brought into other areas in the state to be a consultant to help them build the type of team that she had built here and deal with the opportunities that she was dealing with. She can immediately go into crisis mode. You can depend on her. She has dealt with many crises, and she will, at a drop of a hat, be right in there. She's honest, professional, passionate. Her care is sincere for all children. And I know that's what we say all the time as a team here, that it's sometimes we have to fight for those children that don't have somebody fighting for them, but she is that person to do that. She knows the community. She knows a lot of our students. She's not going to be pushed around. I felt she really had a good understanding dealing with 12 different counties. Even if we did go out and get a school board attorney, let's say, experience, it would be one county. I felt that her diverse experience in the breadth was very unique too, that I didn't see in some of the other candidates. And I loved how she said if we were coming to her, she would try to work with us as a team of how do we get to yes. You know, so often people are very quick, but she wants to work with us to make sure that we can get to yes. And to me, that was a good way to frame it. Wants to grow together, knowing, I challenged her saying, we're going to have a new superintendent who used to be in this role. We're going to have some other new executives who are recently retiring, and she was looking forward to that opportunity because in many of her other roles, there has been new key staff members, and she was, I love how she phrased it, that she wanted to grow together as a family here. She's current with school law from the DCAs and many court decisions that she's worked with. And stop there and add more. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I think you understand what I feel about this candidate. And the recommendations were from valid people that I admire in this community and outside the community, and that I have a long-standing relationship with. And even when I commented, when I thought we had a school board attorney, I happened to be in another meeting with one of the people that I had called, and the comment was, you made the wrong decision, you should have chosen her. So I, even past that whole process, there were still people in the community that were advocating that she's an excellent candidate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
Well, with the initial interviewing, being that we interviewed, quite a few, was it 8 or 9? I feel the same way as Member Pennock. Even though I had mentioned 4 that were the top of mine, Asima being one, Blake, or I think I'm saying her last name, it's supposed to be like Black, but with the G, how she says. And then Carlene, I had her on my list as well, but I feel in all fairness, it would be better to go back out, and if they would like to resubmit their applications, and then I could look at and see their resumes again. I already looked over them, but I would like to talk to them a little bit more in depth about everything, and I think that would be the only fair way for me to really do what I need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Russi? Is there something that you would do differently in advertising to go back out, go another route or an additional route?
We haven't discussed another way of advertising. We did go out, I think, pretty broadly. We hit most of the attorneys that had education experience in the state of Florida. Ms. Beeman assisted with that, was sending out through listserv to all the school districts, reached out directly to the school board attorneys in other districts to make their other associate attorneys aware. The only other option, and I know Dr. Calderon has mentioned other firms that would look nationally, but I don't know if that'd be helpful to look outside of the state of Florida. So we could re-advertise. I know there are other districts looking for attorneys across the board right now.
Okay, thank you. It's evident to me that we're not going to have a majority for any particular candidate. I was torn between Jody and Livingstone and Carlene Cole Palmer, and can repeat all the same things that you all have said about them. I was impressed with Carlene Cole Palmer that she was in Leadership Seminole, and that's really going above and beyond as far as she's working in another county. I know she works in multiple counties. What I learned from Jody and Livingstone that impressed me extra was she said, you have to know how to do good research, no matter what the topic. She said, even things that I'm well-versed in and have known about for 10 years, you still have to know when it's authentic and know how to do your work. I support going out as well at this point in time.
Are we sure, just with this discussion, that we want to go out and delay it again? Because the one thing that concerns me, I would have felt a little bit better, except for Mr. Russi, your last comment, that other school districts are looking for attorneys as well. Where they are in the process. I'd hate to break candidates that we have here.
I can just make you aware of the one that I'm familiar with. I know in South Florida, there's one county, Broward, that currently is going to be looking for, from my understanding, 3 attorneys right now. And I don't believe they're the only district that's looking. If the board decides for us to go out for another advertisement, we'd put together a plan again, bring it back to the chairman to review.
I don't believe we need to take a vote on this because we're not. Is that correct? Or we? I guess I should look.
Could I ask another question? Yes. If we're going to do this, if the board is really passionate about going out again, could I ask our legal counsel, if we're saying that these quality candidates that we have here, just because they might not have the exact school board experience in the state of Florida that we were looking for, if we hired a national firm and went nationally, would those potential candidates come with any more qualifications than what we have?
It's hard to say. I mean, you could get candidates that have extensive education law experience. Of course, there's a body of federal law that would apply across all states. I can't.
But you've been here in Seminole County Public Schools. You know, at least historically, recently, what the department is working on.
Sure.
Do you feel the Florida experience would help that person? What I heard time and again, even from all the candidates that we interviewed, is, once a lawyer, as you said, Mrs. Almond, always a lawyer, because you're constantly researching, even though it's something that you've done before. And we had recommendations of somebody who knows how to do that quickly.
I mean, my opinion, having education law experience even on a national level is probably the primary factor. Again, this is just my opinion. Having Florida law, Florida's a pretty unique state, as we've seen recently, especially with all that's going on. So, I mean, clearly having Florida law experience is going to be helpful. And it's not just Florida education law, it is Florida local government law. How things are run. I mean, how the legislature, public records laws differ from state to state. So it's a difficult question, ma'am. I mean, you can get somebody that just has been in local government for a very long time and maybe doesn't have as much education law as someone else who could come in and do a fine job, and you can have the opposite. A lot depends on the candidate and just how thorough they are and what their personality is like. So I'm sorry, but it's just a very difficult question.
No, thank you.
Member Krause.
I just would advocate also that I share Dr. Calderon's concern over losing very good candidates. We saw from when the selection was made until the announcement, and 2 of the 8 or 9 candidates had accepted other positions. So I too share the concern that we do have good candidates that we interviewed.
We need 1 candidate to get 3 votes.
Correct.
And it doesn't appear that we have that.
Well, I'd like to, I can support either my candidate or Dr. Calderon's candidate. If somebody wants to make a motion, I don't know exact procedure.
Mr. Johnson, should possibly the board vote if they want to go out again and advertise or not, to kind of take care of that layer, then depending on how it goes?
Yeah, I mean,
in the discussion for attorney, I don't know.
Obviously, the item was agended as the selection of the next attorney. If there is either, you can open up the floor for nominations and see how it goes. And of course, if that vote fails, I would suggest, just as a matter of procedure so that everybody knows, a vote to re-advertise. And if that's going to get a majority, you should probably do that.
Could I ask another question of Mr. Russi before what would a time frame look like if this body chose to go back out again?
I'm sure we could put the advertisement out within 2 days.
And what would the procedure be? And I guess this is back to legal counsel. If we opted to go with a firm, is that an RFP or an ITN or?
I mean, Ms. Olson probably is better to respond to that, but I don't think it needs to be, depending on the, the amount that they would charge to do it. We'd have to look at that. Not sure, to be honest with you. Ms. Olson might have probably a better idea of how that would work.
My concern is this body, I don't want to speak for the rest of you. I don't have experience in hiring a firm to hire attorneys. I have more experience in a firm to hire other positions, and I don't even know if there's firms out there that specialize in it unless you all know of one.
I would suggest piggybacking off of another government agency's executive search firm. There are some out there. If you were to look at that, I have a list of firms that regularly send me emails. Look at something like that instead of going through a whole competitive selection process just to identify a firm.
There are lots of firms that specialize in attorneys. Believe me, I get emails all the time. So
we're lucky to have you, Greg.
Delete.
Any other comments?
So with that knowledge, Mr. Russi, what would the time frame be if we chose to go that route?
I would need to get with Ms. Olson to get a list of those firms and then reach out to them. So it would probably take us, I'm estimating, a week.
So we would, as a board, direct you to choose a firm? It doesn't have to come back to us then?
I assume I would bring it back to the chair for approval.
Okay.
I think for right now, moving forward, I should ask for nominations and go through that part of the process and see where we land, and then move forward if we need to after that. So I'll open the floor for nominations in seconds for attorney recommendations.
I'd recommend Carleen Cole Palmer.
And I will second that nomination.
Thank you. Any other candidates? Then I close the floor for nominations. And we'll ask for a verbal vote. Roll call, please. Well, there's only one.
In roll call order, please indicate if you would like to select Ms. Cole Palmer as the next Executive Director of Legal Services School Board Attorney. Member Kraus.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pennick.
No.
Member Calderon.
Yes.
Member Sanchez.
No.
And Chairman Allman.
Yes.
By a vote of 3-2, the school board selected Ms. Cole Palmer to be the next Executive Director of Legal Services School Board Attorney.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we go further, might I suggest that we have a specific vote to authorize the chair to negotiate the contract, just because I don't remember how the original motion was termed, whether it was specific to Mr. Palmieri or not. I believe it was general, but if you could, I wouldn't hurt to have a vote just to authorize you to negotiate the contract.
Make a recommendation.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend permission to negotiate a contract with, I hope I'm saying the name right, Carleen Cole Palmer for legal services as the Executive Director.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Second? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, you have a report, please?
It's a read-only item. It's the lease extension for the Galileo Charter School.
Board committee updates, please. Member Kraus?
I have nothing. Thank you.
I have none.
Thank you. Member Calderon?
Seminole Chamber is holding its annual meeting on June 17th at Top Golf at 6 p.m. if anybody would like to attend. Additionally, Good Morning Seminole will take place this Thursday, the 3rd at 7:30 a.m. Their annual budget was approved, and the Insurance Committee was a joint work session with the board. So since you were all in attendance, I don't have anything to.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
Just wanted to say the graduations were great and enjoyed being with the students and faculty. Everything went really smooth, and thank you, UCF, for allowing us to have graduation in their stadium.
Thank you. And I recently sat on an RFP for Lake Howell High School for their remodel and refresh, and to listen to the visions that the architects had. Some incredible ideas. Now they have to make it work within the budget of like $10 million. It seemed like it was about 30 that it should have been. And one other comment, congratulations to the student who was the dividend of the year and the adult who was the dividend of the year, who used to play in my kitchen when she was in elementary school. She went to school with my daughter. So with no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.